to encourage you to find your seats, but stay standing up if you haven't already sat down. All right, we are going to continue worship this morning. We're going to read a call to worship together, and then we're going to sing a song together. Are words up there, or do you get your magic sheets in front of you? No words. Excellent. So on the sheet in front of you, you're going to have to share probably, but there is a section called Call to Worship. I apologize. The words are not in yellow today, so you'll just have to pay attention where it says people, that's you. Okay? I believe in you. You can do it. I know you can. Let's read this call to worship, and then we'll sing together as well. We gather because God is already here, calling us by love. We come as we are, open to God's presence. We are formed not alone, but together, a community learning to live God's way. Shape us, O God, as we gather. Today, we lean into purposeful presence, trusting the promise that God is with us, inviting us to be presence of love. Guide us by your Spirit, that we may love well. Come, let us worship God. We come with gratitude and hope. Amen. I invite you to stand and sing with us. Chase my worries, I flee my sorrows, but what you give me is now. So take my burdens and my tomorrows. I wanna be where my feet are. To capture the next horizon, but what you give me is here. I get no farther, and still I find you. I wanna be where my feet are. I wanna be where my feet are. I wanna breathe the life around me. I wanna listen as my heart beats right on time. I wanna be where my feet are. I wanna be where my feet are. I wanna be where my feet are. You can have a seat. I'm going to invite Sarah Jane to come up forward. That song is a song to ground us in this moment, and Sarah Jane is going to help us continue to do that with a mindfulness practice this morning.
I'm going to invite each of us to just take a moment to settle in a little bit more here today. So go ahead and look around the room and just notice maybe where windows are, where the doors are, maybe a particular color, maybe a face of a familiar and welcoming person. And then start to shift your awareness back to yourself and see if you can notice where your feet are in this moment. And if you want to shift them in any way, you're welcome to do so. And then bring your attention to the backside of your body and notice each point of contact with the chair or the surface that you're sitting in. So we're starting to shift our awareness from the external to the internal so we can better engage with that which we are a part of. So you can choose to keep your eyes open or shift your gaze towards the floor. And I'm going to invite you to just begin by listening and noticing what it is that you hear in this space. And then see if you notice anything through the scent of the room or the coffee beside you, or maybe a treat that you picked up this morning. And then start to be curious if you notice any particular sensation within your being. So that could be where maybe there's a noticing of tension in the physical body, or even an openness and an ease. And all of this is just information that we're gathering, paying attention, so we can intentionally decide how we move and engage and interact with what's next.
As you bring your attention back into this space, I invite you to take another deep breath right where you are. I am grateful for Sarah Jane as she leads us in practices like this. I am grateful for your willingness to engage in it. It is good to slow down every once in a while, isn't it? If even just for a few moments. So thank you for doing that. If you are 5th grade and younger, I'm going to invite you to head to the back with Elena and Lucy. You're going to have a morning filled with creativity. Got some fun things planned back there. Before you go, let's speak a blessing over you that we're going to do it. We're just going to do it. It's not up there. This will be fun. I bet most of you know these words. May your time together. Ready? May your time together be filled with wonder, joy, and friendship. You are loved. We'll see you back here soon, kiddos and leaders. Well done, everybody. Impressive. Good job. Before we move into a sermon and one of our core values here, I wanted to share a couple of things to celebrate, because we live in a world of hard and it's good to celebrate the good, right? And because celebration is fun. We wanted to celebrate some stories that have come from our partnership with AYA Youth Collective. We mentioned that the students are making snack bags this morning. A couple of months ago, they made a meal and delivered it to the drop-in center and fed 100 youth that come through those doors every week. Many of you have assembled cabinets in the last couple of weeks. If you want to see them, I was going to show you a picture, but pretend. You can go downstairs and see them. They're lined up in the hallway right now, ready to go to one of their new buildings. They have like duplex style housing. So there's 3 or 4 youth who live with 1 or 2 adults. And they have their own space. They actually have like an apartment style space. And then there's a shared dining area that they can do meals together. They get mentorship from that adult that lives in the space as well. They have, I believe this is their 12th or 13th building. So they have all of these buildings around the city. This is another one that those cabinets that you built, that you just, put together from IKEA, those are going to serve youth really, really well in a space that they can call their own as they work toward independent living as well. So thank you for doing that. Something that might seem a little mundane and trivial, it's really not. It really, really matters. So thank you for doing that. Students, thank you for your work this afternoon. You're going to bring some joy with whatever you draw on those bags and fill them with yummy snacks as well. So, all right. Monroe is celebrating. Excellent. I love it. We're all going to celebrate with Monroe. Thanks.
Hi. How are you? I've missed you all. Maybe you didn't miss me. Maybe you didn't know I was gone. But I've been gone the last couple of weeks, doing some interesting contract work in San Diego. Work not connected to this job or connected to my other work, a completely different opportunity. I met some wonderful people, and I got to go outside without a coat on, which don't hurl things at me. I know. That's what the rocks are for. We're having a stoning today, yes. That's probably not a joke I should make, but okay. I did miss you all, and absence makes the heart grow fonder, right? When you're away, you realize, I'm a part of a really wonderful and quite unique group of people. I was, again, with some wonderful people as well, but you're top notch, and so I'm glad to be back. We're talking about our core values, as Teresa alluded to. She led us in the first couple of weeks. We have 5 core values, so you can do the math. We have 3 left. We've talked about partnership. We've talked about inclusiveness. And today we're going to talk about purposeful presence. Core values, I think, it may just be worth saying up front, are things that you find to be valuable, right? They're things that you have decided as an individual. You might have values, actually not might, you do, whether you've ever identified them or not. And groups of people can have values, things that are central to your identity, things that you believe are really important. In fact, so important that you give them priority. Well, that's what we're talking about these weeks. And purposeful presence, we put some words around it. Here's what is on our website. Purposeful presence. God's promise is to be with us. We offer that same gift to each other and to the world, honing in on specific ways we can be a presence of love. Purposeful presence. Other ways to maybe talk about it or to think about it would be to call it showing up. Purposeful presence is showing up for each other, for the world. Purposeful presence could be called withness, if I want to make up a word. Being with another. It is saying, I am here with you now. I'm here now. I'm fully present, or as fully present as I can be. This is what we're kind of trying to talk about here. And we're going to look at a story from Luke 18. Not on the screen. Nothing's on the screen. We have some technical difficulties this morning, in case you hadn't realized. So you can either on your phone find it easy enough. You can Google Luke 18. I'm reading from the New Living Translation, or you can just listen to this story here this morning. As Jesus approached Jericho, a blind man was sitting by the roadside begging. When he heard the crowd going by, he asked what was happening. And they told him, Jesus of Nazareth is passing by. He called out, Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me. And those who led the way rebuked him and told him to be quiet. But he shouted all the more, Son of David, have mercy on me. Jesus stopped and ordered the man to be brought to him. And when he came near, Jesus asked him, what do you want me to do for you? Lord, I want to see, he replied. Jesus said to him, receive your sight. Your faith has healed you. And immediately he received his sight and followed Jesus, praising God. And when all the people saw it, they also praised God. So what might this story teach us about purposeful presence? Let's start with that word presence. I think this story has something to say to us about what presence might look like. So what is presence? Well, in verse 40, we have Jesus making his first move in the text. He's going to Jericho. There's a crowd traveling with him. A blind man on the side of the road cries out. The people tell him to be quiet. He cries out all the more. I love that. And then verse 40 says that Jesus stopped. I think being present has something to do with stopping. With stopping whatever we might be doing, whatever agenda we might be carrying out or task we might be completing. Jesus is certainly on his way to do something. We'll talk more about that in a moment. He's not wandering around aimlessly with no schedule. He has responsibilities and things to accomplish, especially at this point in his life. And yet, when he hears this person cry out, he stops, pauses his schedule, makes space for another. I think stopping has something to do with being present. Sarah Jane invited us to kind of pause, to stop, to shift. And that's what Jesus does here with this man. But stopping alone isn't enough. If my kid comes into the kitchen while I'm doing the dishes and wants to talk, and I stop doing the dishes and turn my attention to them, that's a good first step. But I can still not be present to them. Presence also requires a certain posture, I think. And so in verse 40, Jesus stopped and ordered the man to be brought to him. And when he came near, Jesus asked him, these are Jesus' first words to him, what do you want me to do for you? It's just 9 words, but I think they're incredibly instructive. Because here we see Jesus taking a posture of curiosity, selflessness, and compassion. And I think those are 3 pretty good ingredients to be present to each other. Let me say them again. Curiosity, selflessness, compassion. Presence isn't just stopping what we're doing. It's also taking a certain posture, one that is open, curious, one that is attentive, therefore selfless, one that is patient and compassionate. When my kid walks in wanting to talk and I'm doing the dishes, stopping doing the dishes is a good first step. But then there's a certain posture required. I have to meet them in that moment. And curiosity and selflessness and compassion, again, are pretty good ingredients that go towards being present with another. Presence is doing our best to be fully alive in that moment with another human, offering as much of ourselves as we can muster, and doing so without an agenda. We can be curious, and yet it's still possible. Sometimes this happens. We can see people as a problem to solve or a task to complete. That's not presence either. Presence simply holds space for the other. Jesus says to this man, "What do you need? What do you want me to do for you?" It's not as if Jesus didn't know this man was blind. That would have been obvious. Jesus could have preempted the whole thing, called him over and said, "Let me heal you. Certainly that must be what you want as you cry out from the road." No, Jesus doesn't assume, doesn't preempt him. He compassionately gives this man the space to voice his need, his hope. He allows this man to be seen and heard, which again I think is a pretty good example of what presence looks like. The other thing I'll say about presence, it's stopping, it's having a certain posture toward another. It's also one of the most transformative gifts we can offer each other. When you reach the end of your life, no one is going to talk about, or very little will they talk about, the accomplishments that you achieved, the tasks that you completed. Boy, my dad did the dishes every night. I remember that. No, I think what we remember about each other are those times when we are present to one another, playing board games around a table, taking a trip somewhere and getting lost in the woods, having a cup of coffee, and having someone listen, really listen to us. That's what I think we remember. Because it's what matters. It's what changes us. It's what transforms us and even heals us. It's what happens to this man. His life, his joy, his hope, his sight are changed because Jesus stopped and made himself available. So we get a sense maybe of what presence is. What about that purposeful part? This value we've given those two words to, purposeful presence. Well, listen again to what happens in this encounter. This man cries out, and when Jesus heard him, he stopped. We've talked about that. And he ordered, did you catch that? That the man be brought to him. What an interesting word, ordered. Other translations have it commanded. Why does Jesus have to command or order that this man come to him? It's not that the man doesn't want to come to him, the blind man. He wants to. Who doesn't want him to come to Jesus? It's the crowd. The man cries out, "Jesus, Son of David, have mercy on me." But those who led the way, also I think an interesting phrase there in the text, rebuked him. That's a shut up sort of, that's a harsh thing, and told him to be quiet. Why did they do that? Don't know for sure, but my suspicion is that they thought that Jesus had more important things to do. This man wasn't important enough. Jesus orders them to allow him to come. And I'm glad this is in the text. I'm glad that people are resistant, are thinking to themselves, we shouldn't have this happen. This man isn't worthy of Jesus. I'm glad this is in here because it reminds us that there will often be obstacles to presence. Sometimes those obstacles come from the outside, like they do in this text. Someone may say to you, don't be present to that person or to that issue or to that group. It's hopeless. Someone may say to you, stop talking about that thing that you are always talking about. Stop bringing that thing up, Be quiet. Don't be present to that issue, that cause, that need. So sometimes the voices that restrict us or want to restrict us come from the outside, but I'll tell you what, friends, I think most often they come from within. The voice comes from within. That's my experience anyway. An opportunity to be present to someone arrives in my life, and very commonly a response I have internally is, I'm too busy. I have the dishes to do. I have the emails to respond to. So often it's me. Maybe it's not that I'm busy. Sometimes it's that I don't want to pay the price of being present. Do you know what I mean? Being present with someone is costly. It requires your attention. It requires vulnerability. And sometimes I think to myself, don't really want to pay that cost. So there's an internal kind of tension within me. Sometimes, if I'm honest with you, I don't want to be present because I'm not sure that the person that I'm to be present to deserves my time. Again, I don't really love admitting this publicly, but it's true. I have judgment towards the other person. Or I think it won't make a difference. Be present to this person, be present to this cause, be present to this group. What's it going to matter? There are all kinds of reasons why we might not choose to be present to each other. And there were all kinds of reasons I would suggest to you that Jesus might not have been present to this blind man. But Jesus stopped. And that word stopped is actually a word about purpose. It's a purposeful word, right? And when we look at Jesus' life as a whole, what we see is someone who consistently stopped and faithfully chose people over anything else. Don't think that Jesus just floated through this earth for 3 years without a care or a responsibility, that he just had a glow about his head as we see in paintings, and it was just, carefree. Jesus had legit responsibilities. He, I would suggest to you, probably at some point in his life was concerned about his reputation. Probably was concerned at some point or points about his comfort. If Jesus was fully human, as Christians have long maintained, then he would feel and would know the things that you feel and know when the opportunity to be present arises. But Jesus chose people over other things, time and time again. I wish that was more true in my life. I've already told you about the dishes and the emails. I haven't always made being present a priority. And again, I know I'm not alone, because in this text we have this group of people leading the way that day who are resistant to allowing this man to encounter Jesus and be present to him and Jesus to him. It's such a human thing to think that we have more important things to do, or to think that being present to each other isn't enough. It's very human to think those things, which is why I think purposefulness is needed. If we are to be curious and selfless and compassionate, it will require, I think, a determination and a doggedness from us. It will be a value we will have to hold really tightly. We're going to have to be purposeful. So that's a little bit about presence and maybe a little bit about purposefulness. Let me say one more thing from this passage. It's those words that started the text. As Jesus approached Jericho. When we step back and look at Jesus' life, kind of from beginning to end, what we know of it, what we see is someone who was consistently purposeful. Here, he's going to Jericho, which is the final stop before arriving in Jerusalem for the last time. It's there that he'll be betrayed, arrested, and killed. He knows his fate, and yet he purposefully walks this path because, again, I would suggest to you, he consistently chooses people over things. He's very purposeful in this journey. He's purposeful at the beginning of his ministry. At the very, very beginning, things are off to a rocket start. Crowds are arriving. They want to hear him. The disciples are kind of like garnering a plan. Hey, let's camp out here. Let's build a church. They didn't say that, but you get the idea. Let's make some brick and mortar, and let's do this thing. We're off to a great start. And Jesus, I think, stuns them and says, no, we actually need to go to the next town over. They need to hear this as well. It's very purposeful, I guess, is the point I'm trying to make. And over again, Jesus, his whole ministry is moving from place to place to place with purpose, with intention. I think that's worth noting. He's purposeful in one-on-one interactions, like with this blind man, and he's purposeful in the big scope of his life. He understands that even Jesus has limited time and energy. He can only do so much, so he's very purposeful about where he goes and what he does. I think the same must be true of us. One-on-one, yes. When people unexpectedly arrive in our lives, can we be purposefully present to them? And in a broad sort of way. When we think about our life broadly, what does it mean for us to be purposefully present in this world? Let me give you a couple of examples here. And I didn't tell these people, I apologize, they're both here today, but they're going to be okay with it. I think of Dale when I think about this. Dale is someone who's very smart, could try to tackle all sorts of issues in this world. He has the skill, the interpersonal ability. He could try to do that, but Dale wisely has chosen to spend most of his time and energy on one issue, environmental stewardship. That for Dale is the thing that he is purposefully present to. And so that has meant sometimes he's said no to things, good things, because he knows he can't do it all. And by being present to this one thing and purposefully present, it has actually brought about change, because this is what being present does. It changes us and each other. I think about Alyssa. Alyssa is also a very talented, let me say all the same things, smart, talented, capable, very, strong interpersonal skills. Alyssa could do any number of things. But in this season, Alyssa has decided, along with Zach, to give their purposeful attention to a small group of neighbors and band together with that group of people to try and learn about the needs of their neighborhood and respond to them. Will that be Alyssa's purposeful focus forever? Probably not. Will it be Dale's forever? I don't know, maybe not. But they have both tried to discern where to purposefully invest their time so that they could be fully or as fully present as possible in those spaces. I'll give you one more example. This week on social media, I saw a post from someone who's in college, who has deep roots here at the branch. They drove a long ways to Minneapolis to be with the people of Minneapolis. She saw Renee Good and Alex Preddy unjustly and horrifically killed. She saw the blatant illegality and abhorrent cruelty, I would call it evil, of ICE. And she purposefully chose to get in her car with a couple of roommates so that she could lovingly be present with the courageous and gritty people of Minneapolis. Now listen, she couldn't go to every city, and not everyone can go to Minneapolis, right? We have to make these decisions all the time about where and how we will be present. We can't do it all. But here are some people who have chosen specific ways that they are going to purposefully be present in this world. And I would say that, again, that is the way that the world changes. It's the way that we are changed, by being present to each other, by showing up for each other. Again, wisdom is required. Wisdom is required. You may look at what's happening in Minneapolis and think, I can't go there. Well, that's okay. Not everyone can go there. But in wisdom, maybe there are other ways to be involved, to resist this very cruel expression that we're witnessing, like giving money to grassroots organizations on the ground there in Minneapolis, or protesting here. There's someone on my corner every weekend, just him, with a sign for hours, and he just keeps showing up. That's where he's choosing to be purposefully present. We have to make these choices. We have to decide as wisely as we can how we are going to use the finite amount of time and energy that we have. But doing nothing, being present nowhere, I don't think that's an option. If we're following Jesus and his example, being present is just part of being alive. Being present when people unexpectedly show up, and being purposefully present more broadly in how we show up in the world. So, we need wisdom, and I want to give us a little bit of time to try and maybe be wise. So did you grab a stone on your way in? If you didn't, if you happened to walk by the table because you were in a great conversation with someone, you can just head right on back there. A stone and a marker. And not all these stones are very big, so you're going to have to write with great skill and care. Here's the invitation. To write something on a stone that you want to take away from this core value. Here's some prompts just to get your brain going. Maybe on this stone you simply write the word here, now. Because I'm going to have you take these stones home. You're not turning them in here. You're taking them home and you're putting them, I hope, in a place where you will see them with regularity. And so maybe a word on that stone that helps you remember about this value and this example that Jesus gives us is what you want to write on that stone. Maybe it's stopped. We talked about that word today. Maybe it's just writing a word that'll be a prompt to you in the weeks ahead. Maybe it's a name. The name of someone who you want to be more present to. Maybe it's a name. Maybe it's a cause or an issue, an organization perhaps, that you want to purposefully be present to. Invest your time and energy and resources into. So those are some prompts. You can write, of course, anything on that stone. This is yours to take home. But I want to invite you to think about what will help kind of jog your heart and mind in the weeks ahead when you see this stone again, as a way of keeping after this value. So let's take a couple minutes here to just ponder that and to write and to maybe hold that stone and offer a prayer, ask for the help that we'll need to be these kinds of people. And then I'll wrap us up and move us into communion. Thanks to you who are online this morning, have had a maybe slightly different experience than normal. Thanks for being generous and gracious as you always are. If you're online, now's the time to grab bread and juice or whatever you may have at home so you can join us in communion. I have a theory about why we like to eat meals together. I think part of it, at least, is because it's one of the rare spaces that we are present to one another. And there's something that we know, maybe it's just subconsciously, that when we sit around a table, we're going to connect with people in a way that unfortunately is kind of uncommon. We know that it could be a transformative space. So it's interesting, again, that Jesus decides that his last kind of act, his last thing that he does with his disciples is to sit down around a table and to be present to them and to promise to them. I don't know that they understood it. I don't know that we actually fully understand this meal either, but he was promising to be present with them. Every time that they would share this meal, they would remember him. And Christians have tried again to figure out what exactly is going on here with all sorts of different opinions about that. But there is pretty wide agreement that somehow Christ is present in this meal. Christ meets us here. Again, how and to pinpoint that is pretty challenging to do. But it's the promise of presence. So, I invite you to come today, to come around a table, to eat and drink with people who love you, and to be present to and to receive the presence of Christ here in this meal. We'll have a couple of stations as we typically do. One in front, one in the back. Gluten-free will be up here, although I suppose one of these times we really should change it up and put it in the back, just to mix things up a little. But we'll not stray too far today. Anybody willing to help serve communion this morning? To be one of those folks holding bread or cup? If you're willing, you can just come on up. If no one comes, we'll have to just ask the kids who are entering the room to just not sit down and keep coming up. Thanks. Thanks, CJ. Thank you, friend. Need a couple people to help serve juice, help serve the cup. Thank you, Matt. If you're tall, your station is in the back today. And There you go. Thank you, Janelle. Great. Friends, the gifts of God for the people of God, let's come and share this meal together. Thanks to CJ and Nicole and Elliot and Matt and Janelle for helping us here this morning. Need a cracker too? Sure, why not two for it? Yep. I see why I get a sense of now why you're serving here. It's like first dibbies on the bread. It's good for me to stand next to CJ and to hear him say over and over again, the body of Christ broken for you. A child. How much does he understand this? How much do I understand this, But there's such like an honesty to it and a simplicity to it. And I hope we each can kind of hold some of that this morning as we take and eat. The body of Christ broken for you, the blood of Christ shed for you, love poured out and always available, the love of God always present to us when our hearts are open to it. Let's celebrate that by taking and drinking. I'm going to pass these baskets here. You can put your cup in them and pass it on down the line. And then you're going to need that song sheet. Yes? Maddie made it. We're going to stand and sing our final song here this morning.
This is a simple song.
So when Chris talks about the simplicity of a child serving you communion, which made me cry, by the way, so beautiful. These are simple words, but I think they're something to hold on to in the days ahead. It simply says, teach us your ways. It is our prayer as we end today that we may learn the ways of God and the ways of goodness. Let's sing together. Teach us your ways. Teach us your ways as we learn from one another. Learn to love each other. Teach us your ways. Teach us to give. Teach us to give. Give ourselves for one another. Learn to love each other. Teach us to give. Teach us to weep. Teach us to weep. Let us weep with one another. Learn to love each other. Teach us to weep. Each other, teach us your ways.
You know, I mentioned Dale and Alyssa this morning, but the truth of the matter is, I have learned from all of you. You all are examples to me of what it means to try and be purposefully present. And I see it happening in ways that are small and in ways that are grand and big, but in all of it, it is such an encouragement to me. So I'm learning from you. And I hope we're all learning from each other and finding encouragement from each other, because being purposefully present is hard. It's not easy. So we need each other, and I hope that you'll find some strength in even just being here today. Friends, as you go from this place, I want you to think of the words from the New Testament book of James. The author implores us to ask for wisdom and promises that when we ask for it, God will give it to us. And so this week, may you seek wisdom. Wisdom for how to live well and to live purposefully. And may God give you that wisdom so that you can be a presence of love in the world. Go and be those people. Amen. Thanks for being here, everybody. Good to see you. Stay warm. We'll see you again next week.